Every year around Halloween, we are treated to an outpouring of what could only be described as scare literature, telling us about how the holiday is satanic and evil and should not be celebrated by Christians. These opinions are backed up by some rather unusual and very frightening fantasies masquerading as historical facts. The following videos are not intended to address whether or not Satan exists, nor to show that witches are nice granola-eating vegetarians and tree huggers who wouldn't harm a fly. Nor is it an attack on fundamentalist Christians, but rather a discussion concerning some of the so-called facts offered in some anti-Halloween publications.
Next, you may be asking, specifically, John, how does Halloween relate to the ancient pagan religious practices of the Celts? Well, Dr. Weldon explains, and I want you to listen very carefully.
Halloween relates to this ancient pagan religion in a variety of ways. For example, there were two key days celebrated in the Celtic religion. One of those days was the day in which the god of the dead, or the god of death, Samhain, actually was believed to release the souls of the good and evil spirits. And these good and evil spirits were released for a period of time to go back and mingle among the living.
Halloween is the worship of the god Samhain. He is the god, the reaper of death. Samhain is said to be the god of the dead, and on Halloween Eve, he called up all the evil, wicked spirits to come out of the ground and to walk the earth.
In 1989, Johanna Michelson wrote a book opposing the New Age, humanism and Wicca. It is titled Your Child and the Occult. She writes, "The Feast of Samhain was a fearsome night, a dreaded night, a night in which great bonfires were lit to Samana, the Lord of Death, the dark Aryan god who was known as the Grim Reaper, the leader of the ancestral ghosts." The Watchmen Fellowship Incorporated is a conservative Christian counter-cult group, which attempts to raise public concern over religious groups whose theological teachings deviate from Orthodox Christianity. It was at this time of the year that Bull, the Celtic god of spring and summer, ended his reign. It was also when the Lord of the Dead, Samhain, began his reign. The Exposing Satanism website states, "It was held to honor the Samhain, the so-called Lord of Death. It was a druidical belief that on the eve of this festival Samhain, Lord of Death, called together the wicked spirits that within the past 12 months had been condemned to inhabit the bodies of animals." The central claim in the case against Halloween is that Halloween has demonic origins in an ancient druidic festival in which Samhain, the Celtic god of the dead, was worshipped. Identifying Samhain as a Celtic death god is one of the most tenacious errors associated with Halloween. There is no such deity as Samhain, druid god of the dead. The great god Samhain myth appears to have come from Colonel Charles Vallancey's books in the 1770s, before the reliable translations of the Celtic literary works, and before the archaeological excavations. The writer incorrectly stated that Samhain was named after the famous Celtic god of the dead. Many religious conservatives, who are opposed to Halloween, Druidism, and/or Wicca, picked up this belief without checking its accuracy, and accepted it as valid. No such god ever existed. By the late 1990s, many secular sources, such as newspapers and television programs, had picked up the error and propagated it widely. It is now a nearly universal belief, particularly among conservative Protestants. Samhain is the name of the holiday. There is no evidence of any god or demon named Samhain, Samain, Samhain, or however you want to vary the spelling. First off, remember that most of the information we have regarding Druidic practice comes from Roman sources, therefore, from enemy sources. Julius Caesar conquered the Celts, who lived in Gaul, now modern France, and he led 2 expeditions to England. He wrote that the Druids sacrificed human beings, by placing them inside a giant wickerwork and thatch effigy of a man, then burning it. Caesar claimed that the Druids normally sacrificed criminals, but if they could not find enough of them they used innocent people. However, Caesar may have written that, in order to justify his wars against the Celts. Look how barbaric the Celts are, they need us Romans to civilize them. In other words, it was propaganda. Slightly later, a Greek called Strabo again claimed that Druids sacrificed human beings, by placing them in giant effigies of men made of wickerwork and thatch and burning them. He also claimed they sacrificed people by impaling them or shooting arrows at them. Problem with that is historians believe the Celts did not use the bow and arrow. So Strabo's writings should be suspect. The Romans strongly opposed the Druids. They had great social and political influence, and the Romans probably saw the Druids as a threat. Therefore anything Greek-Roman writers say about the Druids is likely to be very biased and should be treated with caution. So how reliable were these Roman-Greek propaganda sources? Let's see what they say about Christians. According to Minnicus Felix, a 1st-century Roman writer, Christian groups and religious services practiced infant sacrifice, cannibalism and incestuous group sex. I must have missed that Sunday. In 1984 the body of a man was found preserved in peat in northwest England. He had been hit on the head and strangled, and his throat was cut. Apparently he was the victim of a ritualistic killing in the 1st century AD. However, there is no proof that the Druids killed him. We are not sure who killed this man or why. There's a distinct lack of historical or archaeological evidence that the ancient Druids ever sacrificed anyone other than criminals and prisoners of war.